Good evening. Once again, it's wonderful to be able to gather here at the end of the day and be a little bit reflective together, particularly to be reflective about the Feast of the Resurrection. I find sometimes religious things that we say we believe, we take for granted. We talk about resurrection, but we never think what we mean by that. And so I'd like to invite you into the experience of some of the first members of the community, some of the first people who really got a sense that Jesus was alive, from these sections of the Gospels that are called the post-resurrection appearances, the experiences of Jesus alive by some of his disciples after he had died. Because remember, nobody saw it happen. They only had the experience of him alive afterwards. The first one I'd like to look at is Mary Magdalene. You might remember where the gospel left off from Sunday. Peter and the disciple whom Jesus loved went back to the disciples, but Mary stayed there. And this is where the Gospel of John picks her up. Mary stayed outside the tomb weeping, and as she wept, she went over into the tomb and she saw two angels sitting there, one at the head and one at the feet, where the body of Jesus had been. They said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping?" And she said to them, "They have taken my Lord, and I don't know where they laid him." When she had said this, she turned around and she saw Jesus there, but she didn't know it was Jesus. Jesus said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you looking for?" Now Mary thought that it was the gardener, and so she said to him, "Sir, if you've carried him away, tell me where you laid him, and I will take him." And Jesus said to her, "Mary." And she turned, and she said to him in Hebrew, "Rabboni," which means teacher. But Jesus said to her, "Don't hold on to me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father. But go to the others and tell them, I am going to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." And Mary Magdalene went and announced to the disciples, "I have seen the Lord," and what he told her. Each one of these resurrection stories really suits the person and the relationship that they have with Jesus. And I think right there is probably the first insight for us about our own faith in Jesus. It happens uniquely. Lots of times people try to make other people that they care about believe. And you can't do that, because somehow God is present, in this case risen, as Jesus is, and a part of our lives in a unique way. The key here, I think, is a very tender moment. Mary, as most of the disciples when they first have this experience, don't think it's Jesus, or don't recognize it. Again, she thought he was the gardener. But what did it take? He said her name. Now think about that. How does someone who knows you and loves you well say your name? Think of a spouse or a parent or a child, a good friend. How do they say your name? More than likely, it has some particular tone or ring to it. That's what Mary Magdalene experienced with Jesus that Easter morning at the tomb. Although she didn't recognize him at first, all he had to do was say her name. Take a moment. How does the Lord say your name? When the Lord calls you, when you have a sense of God's presence, when you pray, what kind of a sense do you get of how God says your name? And as always, that tone is based upon the uniqueness of the relationship. As I said in my Easter homily, Mary Magdalene had a very special role to play in the first generation of the church, and she had a very special relationship with Jesus. And so this little recognition, this little saying of one another's names, really held the power of that relationship. So, in a moment of prayer, a moment of quiet, consider, how does Jesus say your name? May we all be open to the way that the risen Lord Jesus continues to be present in each of our lives. God bless you.